consider the 12 powers of the mind. Albert Schweitzer, Dr. Schweitzer, who was a physician, as you know, but also a mystic, one who was touched by that spiritual fire that transforms persons' minds, once wrote, "Since human thinking cannot comprehend the infinite or the divine in its true nature, human thinking is bound to arrive at dualism and be forced to overcome it in order to adjust itself to the infinite or the divine." Dualism meaning, since we cannot understand the nature of the infinite, there's this overwhelming tendency for us to develop a sense of dualism, to begin to see, to think, and to believe, and to experience ourselves as being separate from God, when we're not separate from God at all. And he said that we have to make our adjustment. We have to be transformed or reformed or reshaped so that we again remember and can experience the truth. Human thinking must no doubt face all the enigmas of existence which present themselves to thought and harass our thought. And you understand what Dr. Schweitzer is talking about, that the enigmas, the problems, the tribulations, the uncertainties, the fears, the apprehensions, all of the things that we call our human condition are merely the result of us failing to comprehend our true nature. And that's the bad news. But the good news is that as life attacks us, or so seems to be, it really is causing us to continue this process of discernment and unfolding. I've noticed that nowadays people have a very strange view of the universe. Since a child, I've always loved the stars and the heavens, and to study them and to ponder the magnificence, the infiniteness of the universe. And I've noticed that in spite of, and perhaps even because of our more highly developed understanding of the universe, we still tend to take it all for granted as if it created itself, and we see nothing marvelous in it. It is just out there, and we look at it as though we're not a part of it. Here's the dualism again, isn't it? Have you thought of yourself as being a living organism within the universe? You're part of a living universe. It's not another thing that just is. The universe is something that was created and is being sustained by the creative intelligence and power that caused it to exist in the first place. How can a thing create itself? Isn't it interesting that scientists ascribe every discovery to themselves, not understanding that they are studying a universe already given them, which existed long before they were born. And sometimes when they make their discoveries, they say, gosh, look what I did. All we did was to see what was already there in some better light. It's absurd. They even call the stars by their own names. You see, that's our false personality, which ascribes everything to itself. In more ancient times, when people had a sense of the miraculous and worshipped God as the creator, both of mankind and of the universe, we were emotionally in a far better state than exists nowadays in the average human outlook. You see, there was a time long ago when people did not think of religion as something that would save them. They thought of God, they thought of themselves as being a part of a magnificent universe, and they knew that the cause of it, the power that flung those stars into space, was the very presence and power that they called God, and that presence was capable of responding to them. They were part of something, not separated from something, and therefore they were part of God, part of the creation and of the Creator. And modern religionists have lost that sense. Jesus got crucified for saying it. And you might get crucified at the office tomorrow. for presenting the same idea, so think about that. As great, as infinite as the universe is, there's something greater than the universe, and that something is the power that created the universe. And that something is what we call God. In these lessons, we're talking about the transforming system, what it is, and why a transforming system is necessary. And also, we'll be talking about what it is in us that is being transformed. What is there about you that needs to be changed? Consciousness. Real consciousness is the same in all people. Real consciousness would be two capital words, real consciousness. Meaning Christ in you. Your hope of understanding. Your hope of a glorious demonstration in consciousness. But real consciousness is buried beneath the surface of what I will call false personality. It's our human identity. And it's that part of us, that human part of us that perceives itself as separate from God and from good and has all kinds of false information about itself. It's recorded that Jesus, when he was asked which was the great commandment, replied, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." Well, what does love of self mean? Which self? We have many selves. The personality does. There are many, many eyes in us, many voices. There's a multitude, the scriptures say. Have you not been 2 or 3 selves on the way to work some days? And even more after you arrive? So which self are you talking about when you talk about yourself? Personality loves itself only in all that flatters itself or agrees with it. Unless a person can find something to love greater than himself or herself, he can never modify this inner state. And so Jesus was saying, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. As a matter of fact, he said it in a different context. He said, the way you love yourself is the way you love your neighbor. And you really don't like yourself, and therefore you don't like your neighbor. The image that you have of yourself is the way you see other persons, and so when you hear yourself putting them down, take a real good look, because that's what you believe about yourself. Until you can see it in yourself, you'll never see it in them. So, to love every other person as you love yourself. We call love, this love that we feel, but it's self-love. The term love is used in the Gospels, in the Scriptures, in a very special way, a much higher way than we experience in our ordinary lives. People say they love God and then go and kill one another, or hate each other, or talk critically, judgmentally about each other. And how can that be the love of God that's in us? We tend to love our opinion of God. We're quite caught up with our opinions, aren't we? Most of us hardly know God at all, but we have great opinions about God. We love those opinions. And we love the God that we suppose we worship. But that is a subjective concept. And if someone disagrees with our opinions, then we will be angry and even persecute that person and do great harm to them in our own minds. We might not do it in an outer way. How can we understand what love of God means until, therefore, we are transformed? Because the love of God is something tremendous, something we may imagine we know about, but we cannot yet know until we are changed, until we become like unto God. And where's the God that we'll become like? In the sky? In the universe? No, in us. Because we live and move and have our being in God, and God does in us. And this is the first thing that we need to see. What we call love can turn to dislike, to suspicion, to jealousy, or hate in a moment. And love, true love, divine love, means positive emotions that cannot be changed and that are not changed. Our spiritual emotions do not vacillate. They remain. And they do not turn into what appears to be their opposites. So we're talking about God, we're talking about love. I'm going to use a term, mind, a word. capital M-I-N-D, which is a synonym for God. And my dictionary defines mind as the spirit of consciousness regarded as an aspect of reality. Consciousness, reality, God. Mind, I think I read this point to you in our second lesson, is the master power that molds and makes. And man is mind. And evermore he takes the tools of thought and shaping what he wills brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass, and you know that the function of mind is to create and sustain or support that which it created. And the modus operandi, the manner in which mind operates, is through thinking and feeling. And so we think and feel in secret, but what we think and feel becomes projected as our own individual world or universe. You and I did not create the cosmos, but we have created and we sustain our own projected hemisphere. And if you want to know what you think about God, look at your life and about yourself and about your world, because your environment is but your looking glass, and in it you can see and evaluate what you truly believe. Now, it's important, very, very important, to come to understand that mind has 12 powers, which are the tools of thought. If you and I, or anyone, wishes to become actively involved with this process of growth or transformation or the recreation of ourselves, we have to know how mind works. We have to come to understand the system. So it's essential to have some understanding of these 12 mind powers. In our Sunday service, we have a statement that we all read and pray and hopefully agree upon, and it is this: God is all, both invisible and visible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And this statement is designed to help us come to understand what Schweitzer was talking about, that there is no dualism at all, that God and man are one, and that we are finite reflections of that infinite presence and power that can do all things in us because it has done all things in the universe. Aristotle taught that the soul is a unit having various activities or faculties. And Philo believes that it is not the mind which acts, but its powers, which he conceives to be independent spiritual essences in which the mind has an appointed share. In other words, that our own mind is created in the image and after the likeness of the parent mind. That when Genesis tells us that we're created in the image of God, that does not mean as physical beings, but that we are mind beings, spirit beings, and that our spirit is but a reflection of the parent spirit, and that all the qualities of it are within us. And we cannot understand it without understanding ourselves, and vice versa. Listen to what Albert Einstein had to say. Be astonished. A conviction akin to religious feeling of the rationality or intelligibility of the world lies behind all scientific work of a high order. And he's saying that all of the great advances, the things that have been presented to mankind, have come as a result of the conviction that there is a systemized thought pattern or a mind presence back of all of the manifested universe. That there is something there that the eye cannot see. That there is an invisible world back of the visible world. And Einstein continued, this firm belief, a belief bound up with deep feeling. And notice that he's talking about thinking and feeling. Thinking and feeling. In a superior mind that reveals itself in the world of experience represents my conception of God. And here was this great genius who time and time again said, I did not think the thing that I presented to you. It was thought in me. I believed in the superior mind, and I opened myself to its wisdom, and this is what has come. Astonishing, isn't it? All great advances come from persons who either consciously or unconsciously have had the same relationship with a higher power or higher mind. You know that Jesus did not perform his first miracle until he formed his mastermind group of 12 disciples? His mastermind group. Each of these disciples represents one of our mind powers, one of our divine mind's own powers that are projected into us. And 6 of these powers are thinking powers, masculine, objective powers, and 6 are feeling or feminine or subjective powers. And it's always been interesting to me to be aware that in the modern world, Jesus would have had some difficulty naming 6 of his disciples after men and 6 after ladies. Not in the modern world, he had no trouble today, but at that time he couldn't do it. So he had to call them all by masculine names because of the society in which he lived. And so we'll use that same nomenclature, but we'll think of them, and I will identify them to you as we go along as the masculine or feminine or feeling or thinking powers. And let me remind you, though, that in this brief lesson, I will not have the time to share at depth the things that we need to know about these magnificent powers that are indigenous to our being. So I recommend to you The Superpowers of the Mind, a series of 12 cassettes on the subject. The first of these mind powers that we will consider, and as I go through them, I'm going to ask you to join in with me so that you'll be thinking of them in terms of your own mentality or spirituality of your own self, and even in terms of their physical relationship with your body. The first of the powers is faith. You will recall that the first of the disciples that Jesus called to himself was Simon Peter, remember? Who represents faith. And faith is a thinking masculine power located in the very center of the head. And we'll give an identifying color, dark blue. Faith is your mind's ability to say yes. Very simple, isn't it? It's your ability to say yes. It's your ability to believe. In Mark, the 11th chapter, the 24th verse, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you receive it, and you will receive it. You know that we're always believing in something. It's impossible to not believe in something. You can't help but believe. If you don't believe in God, you still believe that God does not exist. The mind must believe. But faith is your ability to choose, to make the choice, to decide what you believe, to select what you believe, to make the choice. I will bet you that most of your life you have permitted other persons to make the choice for you. Think about it. Certainly you did when you were growing up, and that was probably proper. The parents must make certain choices for children as they come along. I would dare to say that a great deal of what most of us have believed about God, about spiritual matters, we never believed at all. Someone made the choice and told us what to believe, and so we said yes. And we have believed in many things that we don't believe at all. True? True. We believed it because we were supposed to believe it because someone said, you better believe it. We didn't believe it. But faith is the power of choice. And very important power. It's the first power. First one called. And there's a progression in these powers, or in the way that you and I will call forth our disciple faculty, just as Jesus did. Now, Peter was a powerful physical specimen. He was a fisherman, was he not? And fish in the Bible represent ideas. And so ideas are what we believe in. And we therefore must fish and select that in which we would believe. Peter was not only noted for his physical strength, but there was something about Peter that you will recall. That was that he vacillated a lot. He couldn't make up his mind. He thought his mind was made up, but it wasn't. And have you noticed how that our own faith or belief system is the very same way? He told Jesus that he surely did believe in him. And Jesus said, you don't do it, Peter. 3 times before the cock crows, you will deny me. 3 times before the dawn breaks. Now, recently, in a problem that you were experiencing, in which you made your commitment to believe in God or a power greater than yourself, and you said, I'm going to believe. In the darkness of your experience, in the darkness of the night, what happened? 3 or more times you stopped believing right in the middle of it, didn't you? The very thing that you believed yesterday, you didn't believe. Well, that's the Peter in us that has not yet been fully educated or brought forth into its higher wisdom or consciousness. Now, it's very fortunate that Peter has a brother named Andrew. Peter and the second disciple were brothers, meaning co-faculties. And Andrew represents strength, and the color is spring green, and Andrew would be located physically in the adrenals, the area of the kidneys, and you would have a feeling for Andrew if you would remember the last time when the adrenaline in you was really flowing. Remember the strength that comes? In our earlier development, in our more animal nature, when we as lower beings are in this process of fight or flight, adrenaline gives us the strength to flee or to fight. And anger and fear trigger our strength. Well, we're spiritual beings now. We're developing spiritual persons, and therefore we can no longer function at the level of our instincts. We are now dealing with our intuitive natures. We can no longer flee. We must stand and face our Goliath, just as David did. But we can no longer be afraid either, so we can't call upon the adrenaline or the strength in the old way, because we have to change our attitudes toward life. Fear and anger are not permitted us in our spiritual world. You remember those stories where in certain moments even small women have been able to lift an automobile off of a victim and then later wondered how they did it? And that's because of the strength that comes to them through the adrenaline that begins to flow. Well, Andrew represents a feeling power. Andrew is feminine. You say that strength is feminine? Absolutely, it's feeling. Andrew represents the feeling, the unconquerable elation and sustained conviction that all is well in my world, that no adversity can destroy my joyous feelings of optimism or diminish my steadfast faith. This is why it's important that Peter join forces with his brother faculty, so that we develop this ability to walk through any adversity without being diminished by that adversity. Unconquerable. We are unconquerable as long as we do not become frightened or angry. Anger and fear diminish our strength. They do not advance them. I'm talking about our spiritual strength. And this is what Andrew is. Andrew represents the ability for sustained conviction and joy in the midst of adversity. And we have that power. It's already in us. It's not something that we have to make up. We have to call on it and believe in it and practice feeling it. You can't think strength. You have to feel it. The third faculty is very important. It's faculty of wisdom and good judgment, or intuition, represented by James, the son of Zebedee. It, again, is a feeling power. Think of the color yellow, the area of the solar plexus. It's our intuitive faculty. It's the faculty through which God's infinite intelligence inspires, informs, directs, and guides us every day and every way when we believe it. In the Old Testament, this faculty was represented by King Solomon, remember? The wise one. And Solomon was famous for his wisdom and what else? The number of women are wise. And women mean feeling. So he had great feeling, didn't he? Many wives. Much feeling. Much joy. He took joy in his wives. There is no intuition unless we are in the feeling of it. Fear and anger, the negative emotions, rob us of our intuitive faculty. Have you noticed how that when you are frightened, you don't know where to turn or where to go? When you're angry, upset, and worried, you never seem to get the answers, do you? But finally, in time of great stress and trial, when you finally just quit and say, the heck with it, and peace comes, and suddenly the answer appears. Where does it appear from? From our intuitive nature. God is always speaking to us. Jesus said, there's nothing covered that will not be revealed or hidden that will not be known. You will always know everything that you need to know at the moment that you need to know it if you believe in and practice cultivating your intuitive nature, which is a feeling power. And James, the son of Zebedee, had a brother called John, who was perhaps the favorite of all the disciples. And John is also a feeling power, and we call John love. And the color is pink, and think of that location near the intuitive faculty, but back of the stomach. Love is the Spirit of God in me, loving all creation. James and John were co-faculties, and they were called sons of thunder, meaning powerful vibrations that come, that we experience when we're caught up with the joy of living, loving. As a matter of fact, I would like for us to change the word love to another word, because we really don't understand love. Change it to joy. You see, if you love your life, you enjoy your life. Isn't that true? If you are in love, you are in joy. So think of joy. Let joy be the new word that you use. You think of love. So it's John, but joy. Joy. I have joy in my heart. I have love in my heart. And when we are filled with joy, and when our intuition is really flowing, we are so excited, so we feel so good we can hardly stand it. The mystics report this feeling as ecstasy, as joy above joy. And in this feeling we know things that are not revealed to ordinary mortals. But God says all that is known will be known to you. The next faculty that we call forth is the power, the spoken word, represented by Philip, a thinking faculty now, located in your larynx, your vocal cords. The color is purple. This is the royal color because it's the royal faculty. Your words have the power to shape your world. And your words meaning not only the words that you speak in the language of your choice, but your words meaning the vibration that goes forth from you. You are always sending forth a vibration. The quality of your faith coupled with its brother faculty, your strength, meaning the sustaining ability that you're experiencing at the moment, the quality of the feeling that you have in the midst of the moment, then joined with intuition and love or joy will determine the vibration that goes forth from you. Have you been in the presence of an angry person and you can just feel the small hairs on the back of your neck just prickle? Or again of someone who was so loving and wonderful that they just seem to draw forth from you those same qualities. Or a person so excited that the imprint of their state of being just seemed to superimpose itself upon you. Have you noticed how that is? That the vibration that we send forth touches and either harms or heals the people in the world around us. Your vibration is always going forth, and your vibration is your word, and the universe takes you at your word and creates your world based on your word, spoken or unspoken. You cannot fail to speak your word. Even in the silence of your being, you are speaking that word. And this is why that Philip is the royal faculty of the mind. The next, the sixth faculty that was called forth is Bartholomew in the book of John, called Nathaniel. And Bartholomew represents our creative imagination. It's a thinking faculty. Here again, in the head, and the color is light blue. Think of a blueprint, because Nathaniel, Bartholomew, is the architect of your life. It's the power of visualization that gives form to all things. You see, you have the incredible ability to see pictures in your mind and to see them clearly, and even in color. More often than not, we see only what we have seen. We continued to review the pictures that we have taken into our minds. Isn't that true? We review our lives, and so we keep experiencing what we have viewed in the past, and therefore there is nothing new for us because we have no new images. Well, when our creative imagination becomes spiritualized, when we become in tune with God, the architect of the universe will create new pictures for you, new images that will be clearly focused in your mind. But here is the amazing thing, that what you see in your mind in time becomes what you will see in your world. Astonishing, isn't it? Where do you think your world comes from? From the mind's ability to impress itself and to form itself and to shape itself. The images become actuality. Astonishing. Rufus Jones, who is one of my favorite characters, said that getting your imagination captured is almost the whole of life. The minute the eyes of your heart are enlightened, the minute your imagination gives you the picture of your path, your goal, your aim, it is as good as done. The way to become the architect of your faith, the captain of your soul, is to have your imagination captured, to take charge of your imagination, and to only see the things that you want, to stop seeing and reviewing and going over and over the pictures, the images, the past, but to cancel them, and to create your own image pages for your new life. We'll go into that lesson in a future cassette here. The seventh power is that of spiritual understanding, represented by Thomas. The word Thomas means twin, and it's a thinking faculty, a very intellectual faculty. And you remember Thomas, the early scriptures, was called the doubter, and Thomas represents the intellectual part of us that does not believe in a spiritual world at all. And if God exists, then God is at some other part of the universe. And if you can't see it, or kick it, or taste it, or possess it, it does not exist. You mean that there is a spirit that is here? Ha ha. It is our intellectual mind that only believes in what it sees. Thomas was surprised. Did not believe that Jesus, when he was resurrected, was the Christ. Then he saw the wounds, and Thomas' thinking was transformed, and that's what we're in the process of doing now. You and I must reach the stage where that our Thomas becomes so advanced that the spiritual world becomes as real to us as the physical or material world. That the spiritual reality is the reality. It is the world of cause. It is the Lord of our lives. And that what we see are but mere effects. That what we do not see is the cause of those effects. This is what Jesus taught. The eighth power is that of the will. Now remember that Thomas meant twin, and Thomas therefore has a twin, or again a co-faculty, called will, represented by Matthew, who happened to be a tax collector. It's wonderful. Thinking faculty. The color for Thomas was gold, and the color for Matthew is silver, gold and silver. Will is the mind's decision-making faculty, as separated from Peter, that of faith. It is a power. You know the power of a made-up mind? Have you ever in a moment seen a person change like that the moment that they changed their mind and became convinced? It is one of the most astonishing things that can ever happen. There have been many times when I have been amazed when a person made a decision. The scriptures say, you shall decide on a matter. You have the ability to decide. And what happens if you decide? It will be established for you. We keep waiting for things to happen without deciding on them. And they cannot happen until we decide. You decide that you're going to do something, not hope you're going to do it. If someone says, I think I'll be there, what do you say? See you later. Or if someone tells you, well, I would like to do it, I would like to have this experience, forget it. They're not going to do it, and you know it, and they do too. But when you say, I will see you. I make this commitment. And that's what Matthew is. It is the power of commitment. And when you make a commitment, all of the forces in the universe respond to that commitment, and all of your other powers become coalesced or united and joined. They become a master power group. And that's why that Matthew is called the executive faculty. The chairman of the board, the mind. Make up your mind. Lack of decision is inertia, stagnation. The ninth power is that of divine order, represented by James, the son of Alphaeus. And it's a feeling power, olive green. Think of it as in the stomach, just back of the navel. You know that order is the first law of the universe. Everything in the universe is in its right place. Every atomic particle in the universe is where it is supposed to be, doing what it is supposed to be. So order is the first law of the universe, and therefore it's the first law of our lives. But wait a moment. There's more to order than that. Think of order in the sense of supply. Order, the power of order, is the faculty within you that knows precisely how to supply you with everything that you need. And when your faith and strength and intuition and love or joy are fully functioning, and when you have spoken your word of power, and when your creative imagination has started functioning and you can visualize new things in your life, and when Thomas believes in the spiritual world and is no longer a doubter, and when Matthew has made that commitment, then suddenly everything that you need is supplied. And if what you need does not exist, then order creates it. There are no problems with God. If it doesn't exist, God says, whoop, and it is done. Order means to call forth into being. The 10th faculty is that of zeal, represented by Simon the Zealot. The color is orange. Isn't that a magnificent color? And zeal is a wonderful faculty for several reasons, one of which is that it is the one faculty that connects thinking and feeling. While it is a thinking faculty, it bridges the two. It's the bridge over troubled water. Now, how many times in your experience have you thought, if I just had the strength, I would do it? If I just knew what to do, I would do it. Well, zeal is the power of action. Remember W. Clement Stone, one of the world's most successful and wealthy people? What does he say? Do it now. Into action. And the moment you go into action, you have the power. The moment you go into action, you will be guided. Action is the opposite of inertia. Action, do it now. Zeal. Charles Fillmore, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that need to be done by me. Zeal can solve any problem and overcome any obstacle. There is nothing that can stand in the way of zeal simply because all of your other powers are back of it. It does not function by itself. It is a composite. It is supported by all the others. Zeal means persistence, steadfastness, stamina, stick-to-itiveness, tenacity. The 11th power is that of renunciation, represented by Thaddeus. It's a feeling power located in the lower part of the body, the intestines. It's russet or brown in color. And it is the mind's power to eliminate any self-defeating thoughts, feelings, or situations. In your life and mine, we've made many wrong choices. Is that true or false? Suppose we did not have the ability to erase them or to say no to them. We would have a collection. We would have a karma that could never be erased. This faculty of renunciation is the eraser of the mind. You have the ability to say no to anything and to erase it. You can erase any and all the guilt that you've ever experienced. The anger, the blaming, the judgment of other persons. You have a power that is ready to do it. It is a feeling power. You can't think it. You have to feel it. You have to let go. Let it be released from you with the power of the Lord God that is in you. This power works so easily. Is there a situation in your life? Have you made a number of commitments to play bridge, to play golf, to play tennis, to play any number of things so that your life is filled with things that you no longer have need for in your life? They keep going on because you don't wish to hurt someone's feelings? Say no. Cancel. Make that decision and eliminate it in your mind, and it will leave your life because of the power of God. The eraser of the mind. Remember that to forgive means to give up. The last of the 12 powers is Matthias, originally represented by Judas. It's a feeling power. The color is red. Judas was a betrayer, remember, but so did all of the other powers betray the Christ in Jesus and in us. Matthias is a proper noun which means given wholly unto God. If you and I have reached the place in our transformation when we're willing to make a commitment to God, no longer living our lives for ourselves, and we can say, God, I turn my will and my life over to your care, to your direction. Here am I. Use me. The scriptures say, speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. An incredible thing happens. You are born again. It is the rebirth, the true transformation that takes place. Remember when Jesus told Nicodemus, he said, Master, how can I have this experience? And he said, you must be born from above. And this is that power, transformation. But it requires a commitment to live the spiritual life. So, to the calmly gathered thought, the innermost of life is thought, the mystery dimly understood, that love of God is love of good, that to be saved is only this: salvation from our selfishness. That to be transformed is only this: we come to understand in our calmly gathered thought that we're transformed from our smaller self into something that is magnificent, that is already there. And the mystery, hidden for ages and generations, Christ in you, the mind of God in you. No longer a duality What a unity. God and man is one. That's the way it really is.
This program is continued on the opposite side.